So after we open up the file, we should get something that looks like this. And I'll just quickly walk you through how to analyze the poster using InDesign with Create Guides. So first off, I'll just use a sample that I used in the course lecture. And then here, I've already turned the margin and columns to 0 just to make it a little easier for ourselves. So from here, we will go to Create Guides. And then we just want to make sure our preview is clicked on. So this is clicked on. And we are going to make sure our gutters are 0 because we just want to see the individual squares. And then we'll just click up and down and see how many fit. So we want to make sure our rows and columns are the same number. So here we can see 3 doesn't quite work. We'll try 4. And yes, that's starting to work really well. You can kind of see how it fits really, really well there. And then you can try with other numbers and see if it fits. And you want to find the number that best fits the composition. So we see at 8, it fits really well. The title right here sits on the baseline here. The image sits quite well into this area. And we don't want to have the rows and columns be too high or else it might be confusing. But if you want to, you can analyze and see how it works. So you can kind of see at 16 by 16 that the text in the smaller blocks and here actually starts fitting really well also. So find the number that best matches its design and also follow the cues that I've given to you in D2L. So just right here. So yeah, take a look at each of these cues and then focus on answering the questions. So just ignore this line right here. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through the golden section grid in Illustrator. All right, so this grid that we see here that I'll have you overlay all the posters to the side right here is really just a combination of 4 golden section sort of subdivisions right here. So I'll just show you how it gets put together. So here we have one golden section. And what I do is I will overlay it onto another one. So you can kind of see how it comes together. And then here I will just copy it and then I'll flip it and put it on top. And then you can see how the grid is. Oops. I'll flip it. My bad. I'll flip it horizontally or vertically. It just has to be reflected. And I'll just fit it to size. And there you have it. You can see that this is how that grid comes about. So what we do is that we'll take this grid and we'll just overlay it on top of the poster and we'll see what fits best. So we want to fit it either by width or by height. So we can either fit it by the height as we have here, or we can fit it by the width. So we'll just match it to the entire width of the poster. As we go in, if we match it to the width of the poster, you can move it up and down and just kind of find the area where it seems to fit best. So you can say that maybe right here fits really well. Definitely you can kind of see how the block of the main title and the subtitle fits really well in this row right here. Then the top part fits really well into the top square and the top modules right here. So it doesn't have to fit in any individual one. It can fit across a couple modules, and you can just kind of think of these blocks as all the horizontal and verticals as sort of guiding lines. So this all the way down here can form a module. So you want to measure what sort of fitting works best. So it seems like horizontal fitting the guide by width looks really good, but let's try it by the height. So we'll just fit it here and just scale it. Remember to always keep it in proportion. Otherwise, you will by holding Shift. Otherwise, you'll it'll lose that sort of the real golden rectangle proportion. So now I fit it by the height of the poster. So you can kind of see right here, just like that. And then now you can actually see it fits really quite well. You can see that the name and the title fit really well into the sort of optical first block up here. And then you can see how the small subtitle fits into here. And then you can also see how the main text fits in starting from this line right here all the way to the bottom. And then here you can even see how the blocks of text kind of fit right within the second column. And even this little, this block fits almost close into this one. Perhaps it should actually be moved up to align with this block of text. And then you can also see how this bottom square and into the center of the image fits really, really well into this area right here, this bottom sort of modules. So yeah, you can see how it can reach across the block. You really just want to think of all the horizontal and verticals as creating optical lines to align to. So take this grid and then just overlay it on top of the posters, fit it to the width or the height, and shift it around to find the best match. So you can either go like that. So if you fit it by the width, you can move it left or right. And if you fit it by the height, you can move it left or right. And if you fit it by the width, you can move it up and down. So just give that a go. Yeah, all right. All right, and yep, so discuss with your group members, what do you think fits best? So as you go about analyzing your own poster, so we're just going to use the same example as we did before. You can do it exactly as we did with the golden section grid and just move it around, fitting it by the width and the height to see what fits best. But if you want to analyze it like we did in the InDesign example and have a subdivision grid, you can do the same in Illustrator too. So what we want to do is we want to use a rectangle shape tool, and then we're just going to draw a rectangle the same size as our poster. And then you can see this one's very outlined with blue. It can be any color that you want. And then we're going to go into object and under path and into split into grid. This will split the rectangle shape into a grid, as we can see here. So make sure that preview is selected. And then we're going to increase the number of rows and columns. So again, it's best that if the rows and columns are the same, you can try it without, but I think it's always best to subdivide it with the same rows and columns, because then the subdivisions, these little squares, become the same proportion as the larger rectangle here. So we can see under 8 by 8, it seems to fit pretty well actually. So we have our second column here. It fits perfectly into sort of these last three modules here. And then we also have the bottom chunk. It fits really well into these last four chunks right here. And then you can kind of see at least the main sort of text block fits into the 5 columns here, but kind of somewhat centered in, a little bit optically adjusted to the right. Yeah, so you can actually see here that maybe the margin seems about to be half of each of these cells. If you want to, you can see what it looks like at 16 by 16. But again, I like to keep it under 10 just to make things less complicated. But now you can really see how it fits perfectly within a 16 by 16 grid, except for maybe this little block here. But everything else works really well. So discuss with your group mates what you all think is the best system that fits the design. And then afterwards, you've made your analysis, upload it to D2L. All right, and then afterwards, we're going to talk about how to use this sort of methodology for your own designs. So I'm often asked, how do I use these systems for my own designs? So I'm going to use the example as we saw last class. So what I would like to do is I'd just like to lay out the whole layout just by my instinct. So I'll just start moving everything around to just see what I think feels well, feels nice, and then also sort of align things maybe to each other, like I have here with the season and the website information. And then I'll optically place my margins in there. And I'll just move everything around like to what I think looks good. Yeah, making sure all the spacing is even. So after I've moved everything sort of optically in place to something where I'm quite satisfied, then I'll use a compositional system, say maybe in this case a golden section grid, to sort of measure and analyze my design. So in this case, I'm just going to take my grid right here and I'm just going to lay it on top. So right now we can see that it fits by height. And then I'm just going to nudge it across to see what fits best. So it seems that if I nudge it maybe all the way to the left, it seems that my text falls really nicely in that module, and then some of the text falls somewhat into the modules here. And then you can see that the middle column sort of fits into this one. And the eye of the bird kind of focuses well here. Let's just try it to fit it maybe instead by height. Let's do it by width. So just like that, and then we'll just nudge this grid up and down to see if anything fits. So you can kind of see here that, yeah, the text almost fits into this block, and then this, yeah, and then the first part of the text sort of falls almost into as a baseline right here, and this falls into there, and the text right here sort of fits into there. So all in all, I don't think the fitting by the width fits better. I think fitting by the height and nudging it to the left works well. Actually, with this poster, I didn't use a golden section grid. I actually used the subdivide it into into sort of the rule of thirds or into subdivisions of 6. So in this case, I'll just what I did was I made a block, and then I split it into a 6x6 grid. So just like as I did before. And then again, hit on preview just to make sure, and then make sure your gutters are 0, and I'll just hit OK. So here you can kind of see that my text falls really nicely into these two modules here, and then free and easy watering fits right into the 4th row down, and then the text fits really well in here. And then you can kind of see that the text fits somewhat well in here, but I may need to optically move that. So one thing we can do when we make our sort of, after we make our grids, we can actually turn them into guides. So select all of the sort of the paths, or even you can use a golden section grid. So if I select this one as well, you can actually turn them into guides, which is kind of helpful as you design, so you can turn them on and off. So you just go into View, and then under Guides, you just go Make Guides, and then now you can turn them on and off with your controller command semicolon key, and then they won't get moved around. So that's kind of nice. So after you move everything to place, so in this case, maybe I will move these elements up just a little bit. Oops, right here. I'll just move it up a little bit to maybe better fit with the grid. And we'll try even maybe right here. Maybe we can fit these to the grid as well. Yeah, I'll center it a little bit better, and then like that. And then maybe I'll move all these logos down as well. Yeah, just like that. And then I would sort of optically, maybe I'd make these smaller for later, or actually for the purposes here, I'll just delete them. Yeah, and then we can just turn it off. So we can turn it on and off, and we can just optically adjust until everything starts to fit into place. Just like that. So after we get something that we think works really well, we want to just finalize the composition by placing everything to your eye, because at the end of the day, we want to measure everything by eye. So take a good look, and then just kind of move the elements around just to make it a little bit more comfortable, and that will be how we finalize our design. So that's how I use it in my own designs. So I make, I eyeball the design first, and then I place a grid on top, and kind of find the best compositional system that works for me. So that can be subdivisions of any number with the same equal rows and columns, or it could be the golden section grid as we see right here. And then after I place that on, I just move everything closer to fit that grid. And then afterwards, I just go back and forth to polish the design until I reach a point that I like. And at the very end, when I am happy with everything, I will just optically move things to make sure that they all, it all looks optically cohesive. All right, so thanks. Try that for your own designs, and I look forward to your refined draft where you experiment with your composition systems.